This government, as promised, has maintained the closest surveillance of the Soviet military buildup on the island of Cuba. Unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island. The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear strike capability against the Western Hemisphere. It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet...
I'm sorry to disturb you, sir. We've got some serious trouble. Our U-2 flights over Cuba took these yesterday. Russian MRBM missile sites, SS-4 type IRBMs.
Are these operational?
Not yet, but based on the size of those construction crews, they could be within a week. At that point, they could deliver nuclear payloads to every major city on the East Coast.
From the CIA revealing 5 additional missile sites on the island. They report that the Soviets could have between 16 and 32 missiles ready to fire within several days.
Mac, what is the timeline on those ships?
About 3,800 miles away from Cuba. At the current rate of speed, they should be there in about a week.
Mr. President, a week is a lifetime. The real threat is the missiles already on the island. I mean, millions of American citizens will die if they're launched, and Khrushchev is just crazy enough to do it.
Well, I don't know if you're right about that, General. I mean, he's a bully, but I don't think he's hostile. I think he's insane enough to want to start a war.
What if you're wrong, sir?
I could be, and we should sustain the military option.
We're running out of time, sir. They're arming these missiles as we speak.
I understand that, General, but if I am right, I want to give Khrushchev as much time as possible to convince the people around him that a goddamn war is not the option.
Sir, we need to strike. And we need to strike now.
But what you're suggesting is a first strike. And a strike without warning will be viewed internationally as unprovoked assault. So if we do this against a small country like Cuba, well, it's Pearl Harbor all over again. Only this time it's in reverse. And my brother will not go down in history as the American Tojo. So let's rethink this.
The difficulty we face is we can't guarantee getting rid of the missiles that are already there.
Well, that's exactly why, in my opinion, we should focus on stopping these ships. That's a more manageable situation.
But we could revisit the blockade idea, sir. Establishing a demarcation line of, say, 500 miles from the Cuban mainland.
Blockade is an interesting idea.
But the issue still remains. A blockade is illegal under international law.
I would call it a quarantine. Nothing illegal about that.
Good evening, my fellow citizens. This government, as promised, has maintained the closest surveillance of the Soviet military buildup on the island of Cuba. Within the past week, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island. The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear first strike capability against the Western Hemisphere. I call upon Chairman Khrushchev to halt and eliminate this clandestine, reckless, and provocative threat to world peace. The cost of freedom is always high, and Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission. Our goal is not the victory of might, but the vindication of right. Not peace at the expense of freedom, but both peace and freedom. God willing, that goal will be achieved. Thank you, and good night.
Mac, how far are those Russian ships from the blockade?
They've just moved to the 100-mile mark.
Okay, in terms of time, are
Mr.
they...
President, our sonars just picked up 2 Russian subs with SLBM capability escorting the ships.
Okay, so if we stop their ships, they can retaliate.
Retaliate with their subs, yes, sir. Khrushchev has just upped the ante. Risking a confrontation 7,000 miles from Moscow.
Gentlemen, could I have your attention, please? Jack, State Department just received this from Khrushchev.
Go ahead.
You have not declared a quarantine, but rather have set forth an ultimatum and threatened that if we do not give in to your demands, you will use force. Naturally, we will not be bystanders with regards to piratical acts by American ships on the high seas. We will be forced to take measures we consider necessary and adequate in order to protect our rights. And we have everything necessary to do so.
Christ, he's calling us out.
Yes, sir. And we cannot capitulate. If we don't stop those ships, our entire deterrent system loses all credibility.
What are the steps?
We signal our intent to board. They don't acknowledge. We fire a warning shot across their bow.
And, if they keep coming?
And we take out their rudders and leave them dead in the water.
Which runs a risk of killing Russian sailors.
And a retaliation from cruise ships.
It's the nature of conflict, sir.
I know the nature of conflict, General. I've been in it. Mac?
You have no choice but to stop those ships.
Sir, I still believe a diplomatic solution is possible.
That's just about the most meaningless thing I've ever heard, Dean. We're well beyond diplomacy at this point. Khrushchev is going to run the damn blockade.
Sir, I agree with the Attorney General. We have to stop those ships. I recommend that we deploy helos and subseekers from Key West to stop the subs.
Do you want to start World War III? It'll be the end of all life on the planet.
Decisive action would surgically remove the missiles, confronting the world with the fate of
Strategic Air Command B-52 bombers already on a massive worldwide airborne alert are now flying 24-hour missions. Before one B-52 leaves its airborne station, another is airborne to take its place.
Mr. President.
If we fire on their ships and they do retaliate, that initiates a full-scale engagement.
We already know from the CIA that the Soviets have brought their military forces into a complete state of readiness.
Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
We're at DEFCON 2, sir. We're ready.
Their ships will not be permitted to cross that line. Use whatever means necessary to stop them. Bobby, talk to Dobrynin. He needs to get word to Khrushchev. Those ships will be stopped.
Russian embassy, please.
It seems to the observer of the scene that Cuba has to be the point of the crisis. This is the point at which we are concerned that there might be shooting among the ships at sea, that in the story that we heard a great deal of today, the possibility that invasion might have to be undertaken to assure that those bases are eliminated. If invasion is undertaken, the Russians have said that they would retaliate with rockets.
Received word from Admiral Ward on the Essex.
Did we fire on those ships?
No, sir. The Soviet ships have stopped their advance toward the line. They're turning around.
What about the subs?
They've stopped also. But, sir, we still have those operational missile sites on the island.
I find Khrushchev's actions very encouraging, sir.
Well, I do too. I think he just showed us he wants us over as much as we do.
May I suggest we stay at DEFCON 2, sir?
Okay, fine, but no provocative action. Khrushchev just stood up to the Hawks in the Kremlin. I don't want to give him a reason to regret it.
Very good, sir.
The State Department just translated this letter from Khrushchev. It was written before the ships had turned around. Mr. President, only lunatics and suicides who themselves want to perish would think of waging nuclear war. We in the Soviet Union want to live and do not at all want to destroy your country. I propose we will declare that our ships bound for Cuba will not carry any kind of armaments. You will declare that the United States will not invade Cuba.
No mention of homicide.
Excuse me. This was just received from Khrushchev. You, President Kennedy, have surrounded the Soviet Union with military bases, surrounded our allies with military bases, literally dispersed military bases around the country and stationed your rocket armaments there. You are worried about Cuba because it is a distance of 90 miles from the American coast. However, Turkey is next to us, literally at our elbow. We agree to remove from Cuba those means which you regard as offensive means. You will remove your analogous means from Turkey.
We can't allow Khrushchev to dictate how we defend our allies.
Aren't we doing that to him?
That's not the same thing, Dean. We've had missiles in Turkey for years.
Those Jupiter missiles are relatively obsolete. It wouldn't be the worst thing if we took them out.
The General's right. I can't agree to a quid pro quo when Khrushchev's got his foot on my neck. It's a perception issue.
This seems odd to me, Jack. I find it hard to believe that these two letters came from the same source.
Yeah, well, I don't think they did. I mean, this first letter's all emotion. You can hear Khrushchev's voice in this. That letter, Mac, is cold, it's dry, and bureaucratic. I think Khrushchev's getting pushback from his foreign ministry because he didn't run the blockade.
It doesn't matter. We have to respond to this communication.
Why?
I'm sorry, Bobby. I don't understand the question.
Well, who cares if we got 2 letters? I say we respond to the first one.
And ignore the second altogether?
Sure.
I like that very much.
Sir, I've never heard of simply ignoring a letter from the Russian Foreign Ministry.
Well, Dean, we are the party of progress. Well, Mac, I think you draft a response to the first letter. Tell Khrushchev we're very encouraged by his attitude. Be vague.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, even if we ignore this second letter, it doesn't mean that the issue about Turkey is going to go away. I think Khrushchev is going to want something in return for taking his missiles out of Cuba.
Bobby, are you sure Dobrynin has a direct line with Khrushchev?
Absolutely.
And you talk to him. Tell him they've got to get those missiles out of Cuba now. If they don't, we will. 6 months from now, when all this is forgotten, we'll agree to go into Turkey in the middle of the night, and we'll take the damn things out ourselves. Both sides agree not to go public with this, but their deadline for this is now.
So what if he doesn't agree?
Well, they're shooting down our planes. We're gonna start shooting back.
President said.
The deadline. Be quiet, please.
Quiet.
Jack, Khrushchev is on the radio in Moscow. Can you repeat that, please? No, you stay on the line with me. I want to know precisely what he said, word for word. Uh-huh. He said what? Did he give a timeline? All right. Thank you. Jack, he just went on the air to make sure that we heard, without any delay, that he's accepting our terms. He's gonna remove the missiles from Cuba.
Son of a bitch.